were empty, not without features, without substance. They were nomarchs, mist hunters. They did not hunt for flesh, they hunted for names. When a nomarch approached, a strange noise appeared in the head, as if someone were turning pages. Memories began to fade from the edges. First, the little things, names of flowers, familiar words. Then faces, and finally, one's own name. Those who lost their names did not disappear immediately. They simply became an empty space. One of the people suddenly stopped. "Wait," he said, "I forgot something." He tried to remember, but the words slipped through his fingers like water. His face became calm, almost indifferent. "Who am I?" he whispered, and the fog answered. The nomarch appeared behind him, touched his shoulder, gently, almost caringly, and at that moment the man dissolved as if he had never existed. Not even ash remained, only emptiness in the memories of others, a strange gap where something important should have been. The archivist of dust watched from afar. "A name is an anchor," he said. "Without it, you will be rewritten." There was no escape from the nomarchs, but they could be slowed. The archivist taught people an old method, to carve their names into their skin, not as a mark, but as a memory in the flesh. It hurt, a lot, but the pain held on to their identity. The fog receded from the blood that bore their names. The archivist said, "The island hates being forced to remember, because memory leads to the heart." And that's where they were headed now. It was beating, not like an organ, like a rhythm. Deep underground, beneath layers of stone, roots, and time, there was a place where all paths converged. There the light was red, and the air was warm like a breath. The heart of the island was not living in the human sense. It was a connection between all creatures, between the past and the present, between what sleeps and what is afraid to wake up. Around the heart of the island stood creatures that looked like statues of bone and crystal. They did not move, but they looked inside everyone who approached. They were the guardians of promises. They did not guard a place, they guarded a choice. There was something else beneath the rhythm of the island, deeper, older, that which forced the island to hide. It could not be seen, only felt, fear without form, pressure without shape. "It is not evil," whispered the archivist, "it is a consequence." Once upon a time, the island's creators tried to create the perfect protector, a being that could save them all. They put memories, time, names, and fears into it. But it learned to remember too well. Now it was asleep, and every step the people took was like a bell ringing. The guardians of the promises spoke for the first time in thousands of years. "If you go further," they said in unison, "you will either awaken that which will destroy the island, become its new guardians, or lose yourselves and remain here forever." "What if we turn back?" came the question. The guardians silenced, because there was no way back. The fog began to dissipate. The nomarchs retreated, taking with them a few more names, those who had not had time to make a choice. The island fell silent again, but it was the silence before a decision. Hearts beat faster. Something beneath it smiled in its sleep. The heart of the island no longer beat steadily. Its rhythm faltered, skipping beats, as if hesitating to continue or to stop. The air around became thick and heavy, and each breath carried memories that did not belong to those who stood there. The walls of the cave slowly changed. The stone became transparent, and scenes of the past appeared in it. The birth of creatures, the first escapes to the island, wars that the world never recorded in its chronicles. This place remembered everything, and someone else did too. It did not open its eyes because it did not need eyes. The presence was felt before any movement, pressure in the head, trembling in the chest, the feeling that someone was reading every thought very carefully, slowly,
What he was called
with
before
interest.
names became
It was
dangerous.
Nemonymous.
He lay
That
beneath
was what
the heart of the island, woven from roots, bones, light, and time. His form was constantly changing, because it depended on who was looking at him. To some, he was a giant, to others, a child, to others, a dark abyss. But the essence was the same. Pan-Memnos was the memory of the world that should never have been created. The archivist of dust took a step forward, and for the first time his voice was not composed of many. "I am not a guardian," he said quietly. "I am a remnant." Once, the archivist was one of the creators of Pan-Memnos. He collected names, stories, fears, not to erase them, but to save them. The world of humans destroyed everything it did not understand. The island became the last refuge. "We wanted to create a being that would remember for us," he continued, "but memory without forgetting is a burden." Pan-Memnon began to whisper. There were thousands of voices. "I remember," echoed from all around. "I remember every scream, every loss, every name you erased to live in peace." The stone cracked. Pan-Memnos did not call people by chance. He could no longer hold the memory himself. It was tearing him apart from within. And the island knew it. That is why it chose those whose memory was imperfect, fragile, human. "You know how to forget," whispered Pan-Memnon, "and that is why you can survive." He needed a choice: to share his memory, to destroy it, or to become part of the island. Each option meant the end of something important. One of the people took a step forward. She had already lost a lot: memories, friends, part of herself, but something in her remained unbroken. "If I take part of your memory," she said, looking at Pan-Memnos's changing form, "will the island survive?" "Yes," he replied, "but you will never be able to return to the world of humans." "And if no one does it?" "Then the memory will break through the barriers, and the world will remember everything at once. It will break it." The silence lasted a long time. Then the person reached out her hand, and the pain was unbearable. The memory did not enter, it crashed in. Images, names, lost worlds, creatures that no longer exist, joy and horror at the same time.
The heart of the island burst into light, and the roots began to intertwine around the new guardian. The others felt relief. The pressure was gone. The island sighed. Panmemnon began to disintegrate, not in death, but in relief. "Thank you," he said. "Now I can sleep." When the light faded, the island changed. It became smaller, quieter, more stable. The nomarchs disappeared. The fog settled. The Nereids sang differently, sadly but calmly. The archivist of dust crumbled into ashes. "My work is done," he whispered. "Now history will be preserved not by thousands, but by one." The new guardian of the island opened her eyes. They glowed with the soft light of memory. Time passed. On the island, time was no longer measured by heartbeats, because the heart now beat differently, slowly, steadily, as if it had found a rhythm in which to live, not just survive. The new guardian stood on the high coast where the rock merged into the fog. Her hair was ruffled by the wind that had not been there before. Her eyes no longer hurt from memory. They had learned to see through it. She remembered everything, but for the first time she could remain silent. The island did not change immediately. First, the sharp boundaries disappeared. The forest no longer closed in. The roots no longer blocked the paths. The silent roots slowly grew deeper. Now they did not guard, but supported. The luminaries returned. Their light became softer, warmer. They no longer checked. They saw people off. The Nereids of the depths still sang, but their singing no longer stole memories. It reminded them that oblivion was not an enemy, if it was voluntary. And the Chronids, they disappeared. Time no longer broke here. It flowed. Those whom the island allowed to leave woke up in the world of humans with no memory of it, but something remained. Sometimes they dreamed of fog in which there was no fear. Sometimes light between the trees. Sometimes the feeling that they once made the right choice, although they could not say what it was. New legends appeared in the world, about a place that disappears as soon as it is found, about creatures that cannot be drawn because they change, about an island that does not take by force, it only asks. No one knew it was true, but some felt it. The keeper was no longer human in the full sense of the word, but she did not become a goddess either. She was the boundary. She knew the names of creatures that should never be spoken. She remembered worlds that disappeared without a trace. She knew what would happen if fear returned, and that is why she learned to not intervene immediately. Because Panmemnon's biggest mistake was not that he remembered everything. It was that he did not allow anything to end. Sometimes, very rarely, the island reappears, not on maps, not on radar, but in those moments when the world becomes too noisy, when people try to conquer magic, when they fear the truth more than lies, when someone is ready to destroy a miracle because they cannot
At the
explain
highest
it.
point of the
Then
island
the fog
stands
spreads
a
over the
stone.
sea again,
There are no
and if someone
symbols on
finds
it,
the shore,
no warnings,
it means that a
only
choice
smooth
is needed
surface,
again.
warm to the touch. If you put your hand on it, you can feel not memories, but silence. And in this silence lies the truth that the island has learned to preserve. Magic does not disappear when it is not remembered, and only the legend remained in the world, about the island that appears once in a lifetime,
about creatures without names, and about a choice that no one remembers, but which saved